Good morning and welcome to another edition of Awaken the World. My name is Garhen, and today we're going to be talking about seeking and the seeker who will always seek. And this is an interesting topic. The word itself is, I find words really interesting. So sometimes when you look on a page at a word, you look at it and you go, well, it doesn't even, just seems funny. S-E-E-K. Well, let's start off with defining what a seeker is, okay? So, we're going to talk about why we seek and where we look. So, a seeker is someone who literally is looking for something. You're out there and you're looking for something, usually involving fulfillment, usually involving some sort of end game. I'll be happy when, seeking fulfillment through work, whatever the case may be. And our true seeking, our seeking for the truth about our existence usually begins with an ego limiting event. It can be a heavy loss. It can be loss of family, an accident, sudden illness, anything that causes our ego to shrink back and to bring us to a point where we make a decision that we no longer wish to suffer like this, and that there must be something more to life than what we're experiencing. This is usually the point we have to be brought to. And let's be clear here. When we're talking about seeking, we're not talking about the unconscious ego seeking to possess things outside of itself, to possess objects, and to possess people in order to form an identity. The type of seeking we are talking about is the seeking that comes out of the realization that none of those external things are bringing you peace. None of those external things that you've been seeking are actually bringing you any fulfillment inside. As a matter of fact, ultimately, they end up causing us harm in many ways, and we've talked about that before. I invite you to take a look at the video on possessions, because when we possess something, it is literally ourselves that becomes possessed. So we're going to talk about what I call seeker sickness, okay? And the ego, of course, is quite adept to adapting itself, and that is both the gift and the curse, if we must have a curse, okay, that we live under. On the external, perhaps we have ceased to buy ourselves objects in the hopes of finding fulfillment, or we're exhibiting other signs of so-called on a spiritual path, and we need to ask ourselves openly and honestly, have we indeed begun to move past ego? Or is ego simply assuming a new identity, that of the seeker? Fortunately, okay, there's a tried and true test to this, and it's really short. It's only 3 questions long, and it answers the question for you. And the reason this is important is because the ego is very adept, like I said, about taking on any identity. It does not care what it wears as a cloak, as long as it has one. Our task, if it will, is to disrobe ego then, right? To get those clothes off of it, expose it. So here's the test and the antidote if you feel you've failed the test. Okay? And I call this the seeker disillusion test. And you answer 3 questions, yes or no. And if you're unsure, you just leave it blank. Okay? So the first question is do you jump from spiritual practice to spiritual practice to spiritual practice? I.e., are you a tantric Buddhist, this month or week or year, and next month or week or year you are now a Sufi, and then you're going to, from one mystic, religious or Gnostic faith to New Age, and the next year you're doing tarot cards and working on your psychic abilities. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing with exploring to see which path suits you. But if you've answered this question, yes, that you do indeed jump around, you have to really, really look at yourself. The purpose of any spiritual practice is not an end in itself. It will not get you anywhere. The practice is a roadmap. And it's not a perfect roadmap. It's a roadmap that belongs to someone else. And you have to make your own roadmap to get there. Now, that doesn't mean that the books you read and that the materials you look at and the practices you involve yourself in are not without benefit. But if they become shallow or stay shallow, if they are hollow, if you have not absorbed yourself in the practice as as a method to gain more awareness of your own higher self, you may be in the seeker trap. The second question you need to ask yourself, of course, is are you looking outside for the answer? You know, whether it be a guru or a particular spiritual teacher or a friend or a husband or a wife, are you clinging to something externally to try and find the answer to what you're struggling with internally? And I also talked about this in a previous video as well on thoughts and perceptions. We cannot fix what's going on inside of ourselves through the external world. The only thing we can do is get hints and some directions and some people pointing in the general way. But our path is inside of us. This is where the true seeking lies, not externally. The biggest and third question that you need to ask yourself, and this is a big one, and that I constantly remind my wife about it as well, is time for intentional silence and meditation a priority in your daily activities? You know, people who claim to be seeking the higher self, seeking enlightenment, whatever term or label we want to put on it, okay? We're talking about something ineffable that really can't be described with words. They're just pointing in the general direction of it. What we're really talking about is how much time are we willing to dedicate to what amounts to what it says in the Bible: seek ye first the kingdom of God. You know, put all your energies into seeking your higher self, because that is the only true fulfillment. Anything outside of that it does not bring honest fulfillment. And, you know, let's be honest, when we seek outside of ourselves, we hand our power out to others and we hope they give it back. But that doesn't happen very often at all. As a matter of fact, most times we simply lose our power. Our seeking is within. Our seeking is upward through the layers of ego into the light of consciousness that we are. Anything less than that, you really need to question yourself. Am I simply caught in this seeker trap? Am I constantly seeking? You know, and unfortunately, media even begins to buy into this, and you see so many people proclaiming to sell you the way to become enlightened, as if enlightenment is a destination. It is not an end game. It's going to take the whole species. You know, this is the point. Working on your own conscious awareness and raising the awareness of others through your example as an increasingly consciously aware being. That is what matters. That is where the importance comes in. Anything less than that, we really have to sit down and question what our motives are. And again, I am not disputing or saying that any spiritual practice is not valuable. They are. They're very valuable. They're valuable when they're taking for what they truly represent. For example, it does not matter whether you use the I Ching, tarot cards, a pair of dice, some coins, yarrow sticks. What you're talking about is using a physical interface to reveal the subconscious field of knowing. And if you're aware of that, then that's perfectly okay. But if you're clinging to those cards with the idea that those cards are imbued with some sort of power external to yourself, again, you're making a big mistake, and you're actually going to end up hindering your progress forward. At the end of the day, seeking will continue until you fully understand and accept that there is honestly no seeking to do. We are confused beings on this planet for the most part, okay? Running around thinking we're so small and so limited, when in fact we are these powerful spiritual beings having a human experience. Creation, we are creating as we go our entire existence. We are creators by right, by birth. There truly is no seeking that needs to be done. If you only look at question number 3 in the disillusion test, okay, is time for intentional silence and meditation a priority in my life? Make those things a priority, just for 30 days. And then send me a note and let me know how you're doing with that after 30 days. We have to be so careful that our seeking for some sort of fulfillment is not involved around the consistent need to avoid what's actually happening, because life simply is. The more we focus inward, the more we look inside of ourselves and realize what we are, the calmer the waves become of life. You know, there was a beautiful post out there today, and it said something to the effect that a rough lake can't reflect the sunlight or the light. And that's true. We have to allow our being to come to a still, placid state. And in that, we become the mirror of creation that we truly are. That this is who you are, this is your birthright, that there is nothing to seek externally from you. Everything that you need, you were born into this world with. Every morning when your head comes off that pillow, you have all the tools that you need to grow and evolve through your day. This has been Garhen. Namaste, and my love to you all. We are all powerful spiritual beings having a human experience. And I look forward to talking to you again. Take care.